going on, everybody? This is Sean for Awesome Like Music. I know I've been away for a while. All last week, I was balls to the wall busy and just really did not have any time or energy to get a record review out. But I've got some spare time this week and figured if I can, maybe try to get 1, 2, or maybe more videos up to sort of fill out the lack of content that I've had as of late. So a little while ago, I mentioned that I picked up this record right here, the L. Michels Affair, Return to the 37th Chamber. I've been listening to it a lot recently, and I kind of wanted to share my thoughts and opinions on this record with you, and let you know whether or not I think it's worth checking out. So without further ado, let's get into this record. Now, before I get into the Return to the 37th Chamber album, I do want to mention that if you're watching this and you've never heard of L. Michels Affair, which I'm not entirely sure why you'd be watching this review if you weren't at least semi-familiar with L. Michels Affair. But anyways, I don't care how you got here. I appreciate the fact that you came here in the first place. Anyways, L. Michels Affair debut album, Sounding Out the City, is still my #1 recommendation for anybody who's interested not only in L. Michels Affair's music, but in modern funk. Because I still feel like this is probably one of the most unique albums ever to come out, especially from that early to mid-2000s funk revival era. There is simply not another record that sounds like this, and one of these days I will get around to reviewing this thing. So I think actually I'm mostly just using this review as an excuse to talk about this record. Shortly after the release of Sounding Out the City, L. Michels Affair put out several 7-inches in anticipation of the release of L. Michels Affair, Enter the 37th Chamber. All covers of classic Wu-Tang and Wu-Tang members' solo production tracks. There's solid covers all the way around, some really interesting interpretations of classic Wu-Tang tracks. I really like this album, and considering when it came out in 2009, it really made a lot of sense. I think there was still quite a bit of reverence for RZA as a producer, since all the tracks on here borrow heavily from the aesthetic qualities of those classic early RZA productions. They're all fairly dark, menacing, funky, soulful, thick with atmosphere, and just genuinely very unique sounding tracks. But this record came out in 2009, and after this record, they put out an album, which I do not have, of Isaac Hayes covers, which I wish I could find these days, but I've never heard anything from that, and I'm really curious to hear what that record sounds like. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. What I'm trying to say is, in 2009, when this record came out, it was a totally different musical landscape. So it still struck me as odd that when L. Michels Affair announced last year that they were going to be putting out a new album, that new album happened to be another set of Wu-Tang covers. Not that I have a problem with that, because I love Wu-Tang, and I'll show off my sort of meager Wu-Tang collection right here, because I have their classic debut, which is still, me personally, my favorite golden era. Does it technically count as golden age? But anyways, my personal favorite hip-hop album, GZA's classic, almost botched that, GZA's classic Liquid Swords, as well as Raekwon the Chef's Only Built for Cuban Links featuring Ghostface, and a copy of Iron Man on CD, which I also can't find right now. But my point is this. At the time when the first Enter the Chamber, 37th Chamber album came out, it seemed like it still made sense to be giving the Wu-Tang and the RZA, more importantly to me, the RZA as props. In 2017, it really didn't seem to make that much sense to put this album out. However, I really don't want to talk about this record in terms of its musical relevancy, but rather I want to talk about it in terms of the actual quality of the music that's on here. So with that bit of rambly rant out of the way, let's actually talk about the quality of the music on here. Because I actually do think there's a lot to love about this record. Although it really sounds like I'm ragging on this record, I gotta say this is probably my second favorite L. Michels Affair record. And I also think it's a big improvement over Enter the 37th Chamber. An album that I really like, it's fun to listen to, and I think their interpretations of Wu-Tang classic tracks are really fantastic. I don't know, for whatever reason, as soon as I'm done listening to this record, I almost immediately forget about it. But I find that the music itself on this record is so much stronger. The arrangements feel a lot tighter. It feels like they've sort of moved into different territory musically. So it's not just funk, jazz, soul. There's some elements of psychedelic music in here. And even verbal intercourse. One of my personal favorite Raekwon the Chef tracks. Even has almost atmospheric reggae quality to it. Another standout element of this record compared to their previous work is I feel like the drums on this record are far more prominent than they've been on past albums. And while L. Michels Affair has never really been known for having virtuoso drumming on it, in fact, most of their tracks generally tend to have pretty straightforward drums that sort of hang in the background but still provide a backbeat for the rest of the musicians to hang on to. Here, the drums are up front and center, and also take on a very driving boom bap quality to them. I also feel like this album isn't nearly as horn-driven as their previous albums are, which I am not by any stretch of the imagination dissing horns, because that's actually one of the main reasons why I love Sounding Out the City so much, is how prominent and just how wonderful, for lack of a better way of expressing it, the horn arrangements are on that album. It really feels like there's more focus on organ on here, which, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it really sort of gives these tracks a much more psychedelic feel. And I feel like the overall arrangements of this album are made much more interesting by using a much more varied palette of instrumentation rather than having just one instrument being the main sound, sort of the main instrumentation creating the sound for the group. I don't know if that made any sense. I'm going to keep it in. The introduction of some singers on these tracks also is a welcome addition. On 2 tracks, you have vocals from Lee Fields, who really adds his... he adds personality onto any track that he's on. And he definitely steals the show on the tracks Snakes and on Tears, where he really adds his emotive soulfulness to the music, as well as the sultriness of the female vocalist from the group The Shacks, who also happens to be on Big Crown Records, the label that released this album. Overall, I don't really have that much else to say about this album other than I like it and I recommend it. If you're a fan of those old school RZA productions, whether it be for Wu-Tang or any of the Wu-Tang solo albums, you're going to like this record. If you're a fan of dusty blaxploitation or old kung fu movies style psychedelic cinematic funk, you're going to like this album too. And this is easily the strongest material the band has put out yet. That being said, I still can't help but feel a little bit disappointed that their newest album isn't original material, but given the quality of L. Michels Affair's music, I can't really knock it that much. There's just something, I don't know, and it's probably just me personally, that's holding me back from truly loving this album the way that I really want to. And I think it really just comes down to the fact that I was really hoping for more original material from this band. But I can't knock this for what it isn't. I have to take it for what it is. And what it is are more fantastic Wu-Tang covers. And you can't really go wrong with that. So that's going to be it for me today. Thanks as always for watching. As always, go down into the description and head over to my Steemit or WordPress blog, because that's where I put my music links, so you can check this album out for yourself. And if you have given this or any other L. Michels Affair album a listen, let me know what you think down in the comments. Was I wrong? Is this the best album the band has put out? Do you like their other material as much as I do? Let me know. I'm always interested in hearing what you guys have to say. And yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching. I will try to get another one of these out, another video out rather, before the end of the week. We'll see how that goes. And also, quick announcement, if you are watching this far into the video, I have just finished another Raw Select Radio, and since the last time I uploaded a video, I actually finished one more Raw Select Radio, so make sure you head over to either my D-Sound page or Mixcloud page so you can get the audio version of this little thing that I'm doing on the internet. And I hope you enjoy that. So, and yeah, also let me know in the comments what you think about those Raw Select Radio Show podcasts, whatever. I'm not entirely sure what to call them. That's going to be it, and I will say see you in the next video. Peace the fuck out!